stream, and this time we have two debutants ready to give us a great performance. And first we have Patrick, True City fan, my guy. Where I said to my Patrick,
How you doing, man? How you doing, man? Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good. It's a good day. It's warm outside where I'm at, and hopefully you're having a good day so far as well. And we also have Martin from the Mancunian Way. Where I said to my Martin,
Good afternoon. Hope everyone's all right.
and we just had a third debutant coming in. Uh, Maybe he's having a little bit of issues because he just stepped away, but that's fine. Let me know when you're back, and I'll definitely add you in. But as you guys can see in the title, we're here to discuss Manchester City player, treble winner Kalvin Phillips, and what his future might hold in this upcoming season. But before we start that, I just want to say quickly my initial thoughts, and then I'll go ahead and start with Martin. But first and foremost, I'm not saying that we need to keep Phillips long term. My stance is that if he's not good enough, we should move on and find a suitable replacement. But I don't think it's fair to deem him not good enough based on what we've seen so far or lack thereof. So let me know what you think about that. Just to start off, Martin.
Wolf. Yeah, he probably does need. He probably does need to have another try. Um, he's got to start from for me, Calvin Phillips has to come in from pre-season and start. He's got to be the first one back at pre-season. Start early. He's got to show willing. He's got to very much follow the Nathan Aki route from last season. Because we can't be in a situation where Rodri's playing 60 odd games every season. We're going to end up shortening his career down, and he's going to end up getting majorly injured. Calvin Phillips' fight is not with Rodri, in my opinion. Calvin Phillips' fight is with Stones, Rico Lewis, and whoever, and even could even be Kovacic now. That's what Calvin's got to fight through now. It's not getting ahead of Rodri anymore. It's when he finished the end of last season, he was like fourth choice to CDM. That's the problem with him. But it's down to him. The ball is actually in his court, and he's got to start. He's got to show the willing. Now, at the end of the season, he said to everyone, "I want to stay. I want to show," which is great. But he's had his season now. He's got to hit the road running, because if he doesn't, I do fear for him long term. That's just my opinion, anyway.
Fair enough. What about you though, Patrick? What are you thinking?
I think I'm close to. Hi, Martin. I forgot to say hi.
I
Hello to
like,
Martin. Yeah.
no,
Look, I'm close to what Martin
nobody's
is
laughing.
saying. Yeah. You know what? I'm close to what Martin is saying. I was obviously talking about Rodri when Rodri came from Atletico Madrid and came to Man City. And Rodri, I remember I genuinely thought, oh my God, this guy moves like a truck. Why did we buy this guy? I knew somebody coming from Spain will struggle in this league, which he did. I remember Rodri and Gundogan were the worst partnership you want to see on the pitch. They were so slow. Both of them were slow. They could get outrun. Rodri right now is untouchable. Why I'm saying this is how we go at Man City, where we say give somebody a chance. But the issue with Phillips, I've sat down Martin and Clinical, is Phillips is not the same age as Rodri. Rodri came at the age of 23, 24. So your time is also running out. I know, look, the age he is in, he can catch up, but you have to play catch up faster than Rodri. I'm pretty sure Pep was going to be more patient for Rodri because Rodri was like 23 years old when he came in, and obviously we saw his potential. And Pep, but think about Phillips. If he fumbles again right now, he'll be 29 years old, isn't it? Soon, next year, he'll be 29 or something next
Right.
year. It's just you have to catch up somehow eventually because if it's a younger player, I think they would get more time. But Phillips, he needs to start coping on faster, that's why I'm happy Grealish did. But Grealish was also younger than Phillips. Uh, Look, at the end of the day, that thing coming overweight, I think that was a bit of a bit of a mark on him. That was like the biggest mark because maybe he could get away with that at Leeds United because he was a baller, he was the star. Same as Grealish, he apparently Grealish could come to training hangover. I'm pretty sure he's not doing that coming to City. No way coming to Pep Guardiola's team hangover. Look at Aguero, came slightly overweight, Pep dropped him. So Martin is right. Phillips is going to have to come from the get-go because him missing preseason this season, I think that was the issue. I think what he did by taking extra time off, I was laughing. I was like, Phillips, come on. Did you really take the option of taking extra time off? I remember somebody gave out to me, oh, you're not a true blue. Leave the guys to enjoy. I was like, no, I was just thinking Phillips could have come earlier, back
And that's
earlier,
after the
so
World
that
Cup, right?
yeah, after the World Cup, I was like, Phillips could have come back earlier, not taking this option of saying extra time off. I was expecting people like De Bruyne and them to be the ones taking extra time off. So look, he's going to have to make a lot of choices. And Martin is right. The choices he makes right now in preseason are the choices that are going to keep him here. Because if he comes in, Martin is also right on this. Kovacic stays fit. Kovacic is an ideal Pep player. Gets out of tight spaces. Kovacic, in his peak of his powers, will bench a lot of people in that team. So he has to be careful. And let's not even talk about Kovacic. He might end up fighting against Foden. Foden might be dropped into midfield, and then there's no space for Phillips. So there's a lot of things, man. You're gonna have to shine. This is not Leeds United, where you're the golden boy and they praise you and they make documentaries about you. This is Pep Guardiola's Man City. It's tit for tat. Ask John Stones. John Stones was Pep's favorite defender. There was a point in time where John Stones was on the verge of leaving. So I don't know. He just has to work hard, and and Martin is right. Every preseason game, Phillips has to make sure that I play the best game, and it's me in that DM role. I'm pretty sure Rodri will need rest.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. But just to throw back to that preseason that you guys mentioned, last year in preseason, personally, I think we set that up very poorly. We had 2 games before the start of the season, and from what I remember of Phillips playing, he came on as a centre back. He didn't play in DM in preseason, and the second one got delayed or cancelled at the end because of the weather conditions. So he came into the season fairly cold, I would say, and he had a charity game that he had played in. That was the first time he made an appearance this season against Barcelona. That was a fundraiser for ALS. Now, what my issue with that is, why is that happening after the season started? It's a wonderful cause, and from what I understand, there was a lot of fans that came out to watch it. So I'm sure that the fundraising was definitely great for them. But something like that, I want to see before the season starts. And it was just telling that someone would get injured, and it just happened to be Kalvin Phillips in that game, and it happened at the end of the game. So he almost got through, but he had his shoulder injury, and apparently it was something reoccurring. We already knew that he's a player that would have gotten injured throughout his time at Leeds, but I think he was trying to delay doing surgery on it until after the World Cup, and maybe he was even neglecting doing surgery before that for whatever reason. But I just think his specific situation got changed by that, because he was then available until the World Cup. That's when he just came back. He got into the World Cup England team, and then he went on to train with them, and he didn't play. So in theory, he's not available to play for Manchester City until like the end of December, and half of the season, or almost half of the season, is already gone at that point. So it just puts him in a very sticky situation, and I don't necessarily think that's down to him, because no player would want to get injured. It happens, and we have to understand that these type of things happen. So yeah, I think that just gave him a bad start, and he's been playing catch up with himself from that point going forward.
I mean, the problem is though. Listen, and I respect all that a bit and having a slow start and the injury, but I mean, people have said compared it to Grealish, compared it to Rodri, and I've said it's very different. Grealish and Rodri were all playing. Even when they were playing bad, they still played 30 odd games. Phillips was not trusted for whatever reason. I don't know why, just was not trusted. If you go back to many of the games, he was coming on with a minute to go. He was coming on with 2 minutes to go. Sheffield United at Wembley, perfect opportunity to do it, and he threw Gundogan in at number 6. Everyone else got rested that day, but Phillips was still on the bench. So it tells me there was a trust issue there.
Can I reply to
Wasn't
that
it
real quick?
Phillips? It was trust. Yeah.
The thing is with Rodri, I think his situation when he just came in was completely different. And I say that because he came in that season when Company had just left. And at the start of the season, Laporte had his ACL injury and he was out for the entire season. So Fernandinho, who would normally start as our CDM at that point in time, had to play centre back alongside either Otamendi or Stones. And that means we needed Roger to step into the team immediately. There wasn't really a time to slowly bed him in how we normally would with other signings that we bring in. And he was also playing as cover in centre back as well as in CDM. So throughout that season, he had to play a lot of games, and we definitely needed him because it from the season before, we're basically down 2 central defenders now. So for all the bodies that we needed and players who were available to play in that position, we definitely needed him to step up.
I fully take that on board. And like I said, I'm not giving up on Phillips. I'm just saying that the guy's got a very uphill task. He's 28 years old. He's got Rodri in front of him. That's the best CDM in the world. So what does he do? This is the problem. And like I said, it's not just Rodri's in front of him. He's got a 17-year-old Rico Lewis in front of him. This is the problem. It's the amount of people who are in front of him now. He's not even being trusted as Rodri's backup. He's now back up to the backup. That's what he's got to do now. He's got to get out of that. He's got to become back up to Rodri. And at the moment, he's not back up to Rodri. The good thing is Pep will start with a clean slate. Everyone starts on 0, and he'll be given that opportunity. But he's got to grab this opportunity. He can't come in and be timid anymore. If he comes in and starts being timid again, it will be game over for him. He won't go much further. And that's sad to say, because, yes, I understand what you're saying about Rodri, but Grealish still played when he was bad. Bernardo still played when they were bad. Sterling when he was bad. I remember Sterling, who was going through an absolute awful season, and he was still being played week in, week out.
Yeah, but Martin, sorry for cutting you. You said something, Martin, and I think every City fan should echo that in the back of the head. With Pep Guardiola, it's trust. Once he doesn't trust you, you can even talk about Jesus. You saw Martin that Jesus situation. Look at John Stones. He was playing Garcia, and I bet you Pep knew Garcia was not good. I bet you Pep knew Garcia is not better than Stones, but I think Pep sends you a message. When he sees something on you, I think he sends you a message. He sort of says, you know what? Maybe you think here it's maybe at Leeds United or at Everton where you were a star. Here I can play somebody. I think the difference is as much as Jack, Martin, and Clinical, that he looks like sort of a playboy or somebody who doesn't take things seriously. The rumors are Jack Archer trains very hard, Martin. Apparently, if you listen to Aston Villa people, they all say, regardless the fact this guy drinks, gets too excited at parties and comes whatever, Jack will still turn up and train. Do you remember when all of us were ripping him apart for eating pizza? What did he do the next day? Jack was showing a fitness video and exceeding in the fitness video, and he looked fit. So I think Pep Guardiola is more like, look, even if you play, but when you come on my training ground, I'll watch your body language. So it looks like people like Rodri, you know, man, there's no football player who still tucks in his shorts. Rodri still does it. Like, these are people who work hard. That's why he even likes Gomez. And that's the bad thing about it, Martin. Gomez came on as a midfielder in front of Phillips. That's how bad it is. Do you remember that game, Martin? Gomez was brought in as a midfielder before Phillips. I think we said on our stream that was bad. At the point where Gomez, Rico, everybody came in and started playing in midfield, and you're sitting there. Same thing as so. I think Phillips, pissed off Pep with the fitness thing, saying, "Oh, how dare you came with the fitness?" But there's something that he's going to have to do and earn Pep's trust. I think if he does that, Phillips will play. Because let's be honest, if we take all these trust things apart, I'm not going to sit here and say I never wanted Phillips. I did a whole video on Phillips and said, please, we have to get this guy. And Phillips is talented. Let's not lie. If Phillips hits the ground running, the league is in trouble. If he
Right.
does what he's supposed to do, he's in trouble. But unfortunately, Pep, as Jesus said, is a madman. He will put a left back on your position while you're a striker.
Well, it's not just that. You got to remember the CDM role is a very different role to the rest of the league.
Also
A
true.
CDM role in a Pep Guardiola team is not like a CDM role at Arsenal, United, Liverpool. A CDM has to go and get the ball off the goalkeeper. He's the linchpin. If you look at Rodri, Rodri's open straight away, comes into defence, receives the ball off Edison, and then he turns and starts spraying the ball around. That was something Phillips was struggling with last season. Phillips was playing as a CDM like he was CDM at Leeds United. Win the ball, pass. 5-yard pass. That was what he was doing. I win the ball and I lay a 5-yard pass sideways. That's my job done. No, that's not your job done in Manchester City. Manchester City, you've got to be able to carry that ball. And now he can do it. I've seen him do it. He can do it. This is the same guy who played murder ball for Bielsa at Leeds. He can do it. I'm just saying he's got to hit the ground running. If he comes into this pre-season at the same time as everyone else and thinks it's jolly come lately, look at me, the guy's going to be in trouble.
So can I just give you guys a side tangent? I promise that it is related, right? So when I was initially playing lacrosse in high school, I was one of the better players on my team. But when I made that transition into started practicing with Team Jamaica, it was a bit different for me because now I'm so nervous and wondering like I want to make a good impression and not mess up to where the coach doesn't rate me anymore. So now my entire construct mentally of how I play is different because I'm more focused on not making mistakes rather than focusing on what I usually do on my regular game. I think that is a bit of Phillips's issue as well. I know Martin mentioned a few weeks or months ago that Phillips looks like he won a competition and he's playing in the team and he's just happy to be here. And I've seen
Well,
that with
that's
him as
also
well.
that's also Jack, isn't it? That's Jack and Red Myers. They all said that also.
Yeah, you can see that when you see him because he looks so timid and nervous, and I feel like that's why he has kind of reverted to playing how he usually would at Leeds United because he knows this is what works versus trying to take that extra step and play like Rodri knowingly. Rodri is a better CDM than him. He's admitted that before. So if he's probably fighting himself in his head, thinking if he tries to do too much, he's going to mess up and he's not going to get another opportunity. But it's kind of in a catch-22 type of position. But
No,
back
I
to what
agree with that.
Patrick,
I agree with that.
yeah, back to
Because I
what
think he
Patrick
is
said
playing
about
safe.
the fitness thing, though, real quick. Um, for me, as a professional footballer, whenever you are away from the team, whether it's international duty or whether it's vacation, it is firmly on your shoulders and your responsibilities to ensure that you come back to the team in the best possible condition. And there's no questions or excuses about that. So whatever, personal training or workout that you're doing, you have to make sure that you are not coming back overweight or you are not coming back injured. So I think you should take full personal responsibility for that. But also remember that because of the injury he had, he wasn't available until December. For new signings like a Grealish, like a Bernardo, who when they came in, they didn't have the best start at Manchester City. These times, that early part of the season is when Pep usually gives them the opportunity to prove themselves in the team, and he can see that when it gets to the more serious second half of the season, he knows where he wants to play you, how he wants to incorporate you in the team, and the role that you are going to play. So Phillips missing that for me is massive, and that was very telling in the second half of the season where he was barely getting used. 2 minutes here and 5 minutes there, like Martin said.
That is true, though. That is true, and you've just hit it on the spot, man. And I think I don't know, man. I think that's the thing, though. It's the same as Jack. I'm giving an example of Jack because Jack was also the it guy. The same as Riyad Mahrez, man. You must remember, man. We when we buy these players, as much as yes, we always say as City that Pep will take these players and you turn them to something. He improves them, but these were it guys in that team. Bernardo Silva, man, was the guy. Even though people were hyping Mbappe, people knew that Bernardo Silva is the linchpin in that midfield. Is in that team. It's Bernardo Silva who is keeping everything ticking. That's why Pep went after him immediately after that game. That let me get this Bernardo Silva kid. Mahrez, obviously, we knew as much as people say Jamie Vardy, Kante. Mahrez was on fire, untouchable in that Leicester City team. So what I'm trying to say is, it's up to your mentality. It's either you're like, oh, I'm coming to City. I was the guy that side. I can still turn up drunk or turn up overweight or turn up unfit. I'll get away with it. But I think this was sort of a lesson for Phillips. I doubt we'll ever hear Phillips
Right.
come into training again overweight. But I don't know. It's the same as Martin and yourself. There's so much potential in Phillips, and I think for the fact that regardless how bad he's doing, Southgate still picks him for England, and I think it's not a mistake because there's no better midfielder than Phillips in England. Let's take in Rice, but even at the Euros, Phillips was better than Rice. I remember I was like, my God, this guy is a baller. So I don't know, man. I think if he is serious, as you say, clinical, instead of taking these extended breaks, look, I know that sometimes people say just showing off. I am expecting that Kai Havertz video from Phillips anytime soon, where Kai Havertz is doing personal training videos.
Mm.
Phillips should be doing that, even if he's doing it without showing us cameras. But I think he should be the first one. Remember Riyad Mahrez at AFCON? Pep told him to take an extended break, and Riyad Mahrez came back. And Pep is like, "What are you doing?" Remember Pep said in an interview, "Oh, Riyad Mahrez just wants to play football." After AFCON, I told him to take an extended break, but he still showed up. And they were talking by the side of the ground when he came. And Pep said after the interview, "Oh, I was asking him that, why are you here? You're supposed to take time off. You just won the AFCON as a captain." So that's the mentality. I think that's what Pep loves. Like look at Sergio Gomez. I know people laugh at me when I talk about Sergio Gomez, but even Gomez said, "I as soon as I'm done with the Euros," he said in an interview, "I'm going back to training and making myself available for preseason." We want things like that, and that's how Zinchenko stayed in the team. Because Zinchenko, as much as people talk about the crying, Zinchenko had the mentality that he still showed up for training. The first one, last one out of training, still trained fully, always came fit, ready to play. That's all you need, I think, to impress Pep. But I think Pep looks at attitude, looks at your behavior and mentality, and if it's not in the right place, I think he doesn't want to put you in the system because Pep's football is a system. One bad egg in the system, look at Cancelo. One bad egg in the system, things go down.
Yeah, and I definitely do agree with that. So yeah, that's a good point. And just
I mean,
going back, go ahead, Martin. Go ahead.
sorry, he was only in the starting 11 two times. He came back into the squad in the 11th. Came back into the squad for the Brentford game. He was on the bench, and then he was on the bench virtually nearly all season. He didn't come in. He started two games, which was the back end of last season. Chelsea and was it Brentford? Chelsea and Brentford he played. Now, obviously, there are these links to Newcastle. I think I said this months ago. Newcastle are very much in for him on loan. They want him on loan. Now, obviously, he wants to stay, which is great. But Kalvin Phillips has to make that decision on what he wants to do. Because the thing is, the club are very much open to maybe letting him go. But the decision's been made onto Phillips' head. If Phillips wants to stay and fight, brilliant. I have no problem with him staying and fighting. But he's got to, he really has got to come in. For me, he has to be the first person in training. He's got this documentary coming out, which will be intriguing to see. All about his move to Manchester City. So we might see a bit more there. There might be some details we don't know. You know, he's probably going to talk about, because he is a family guy. And I know Leeds to Manchester is not far. It's 40 minutes. I'm not saying it is far. So that shouldn't really have been an issue. But, I do think he saw it as an eye-opener. To come to Manchester City is huge. Especially so, when you're coming from a relegation club.
Oh, Martin, sorry for cutting you. I think they say in the trailer for the documentary that somebody's sister or somebody says it's new for Phillips not to start. So this has actually been new for him.
Yeah, and it is.
Yeah.
It is new for him, and this is the problem. It is, but that's the difference. Whereas, and people think I'm really harping on. I'm not. everyone who's had every time we've said give him a season, they've all played. They were all still playing. Every player we've said give him a season, from Bernardo to Rodri to Grealish to Jesus to whoever, they were all playing. Phillips is the only one who has not played. So, yes, I think it was partly a trust issue with Pep. I think he just lost all trust in him. But one thing Pep will do, he will give you a second chance. You start from zero. And now the ball's in Phillips's hands. But
Yeah.
it's a difficult one because you've got the world's best CDM in front of you. This is what I mean. I found it a weird signing in a way. I wanted him, but I found it weird because when Jack come in, he wasn't really competing with anyone. Bernardo was coming in straight into the first team. Phillips was never coming straight into the first team. Phillips was always coming in as a backup. I know that sounds really harsh to say backup, but he kind of was. He was coming in as, and not only that, they're going after midfielders. They are after another midfielder. You know, if we'd have signed Declan Rice, that probably would have been the end of Phillips. So, I suppose we're going to find out in pre-season, and we'll find out with the Community Shield. I'd love him to play in the Community Shield at Wembley against Arsenal to see, right, there's your opportunity. Because I don't think he'll start against Burnley. That's the problem. Is he going to start against Burnley? No. So he's straight away back on the bench again.
Well, that point that Patrick made about him having, well, both of you guys made this point that he has to come back early. I do agree. But for me, it's like in terms of a progression. Like if he comes back late, to me, that's a red flag. Like that is a terrible way to start the second season where you're supposed to be making a comeback. If he comes back on time, like Pep says, come back on the 19th, and he's back on the 19th, I'm not looking at him funny, like, you know, like, what are you doing here? But he personally should be thinking, you know, based on the season that I just had, I'm in no position to be just on time. Like, he has to be focused on what he has to do to get himself in the best favor of the manager. He has to be coming back early and showing that mentality that he's here to have a completely turnaround of a season. Now, I think it's a bit different for a player like Grealish because he's a winger. Usually, you know, how we play, we have two wingers on the pitch. As a DM, as the only DM on the pitch, you know, if you're battling against Rodri, he was brought in with the pretense of, you know, playing a more rotational role per se. He knows that Rodri is the starter at CDM. So, you know, he's already coming in knowing that he's backup, like you guys mentioned. But that's why I just think it's a bit of a slight difference for him. But earlier in the season, you mentioned trust, Martin. Earlier in the season.
Wait. Before you go to that, King, sorry for cutting you, but I want to say something also. I don't know if you guys agree with me. Martin, you can also jump in if I'm wrong. How I've known Pep Guardiola and I've watched Pep Guardiola through Germany, through Spain. I'm not trying to say, I don't want people to get me wrong, but I'm just going to say it. From what I've seen from Phillips, right, and all the hype around him, what people say about him, and when you watch him, even when he's doing these independent videos with these guys, you know, these YouTubers who do independent videos, there is a player in there that I think the potential hasn't been unlocked fully. Like he hasn't reached his full potential. And I hope he does, because I saw Pep unlock Fernandinho, who was already 29, 30 years old. I think this thing where Phillips has to sit down, I think he also has to sit down and say, you know what, my target maybe is to dislodge Rodri. Do you get it? Like, have that mentality, because Pep likes that mentality. I think you have to be, because I'm one of those people who I will come in a company, not that I'm competitive, but I actually say that I have to be good enough one day to sit on that position. I think that's the mentality he has to come with, that I am not here to participate anymore. As Jack said, not here to participate anymore, not here to carry people's bags. I am here to actually be the first name on the team sheet. Because I think if Phillips gets to where I think he can get, I think Pep has a very hard time and says, I'm going to have to shoehorn this guy. Because don't forget, Phillips, even in the Euros, was the guy who was carrying the ball and passing the ball and getting assists. And Declan Rice was the one sitting back. I think he has the potential to force himself into that team, and he mustn't be looking that, oh, Rodri has a great season. Because I thought for a minute that Rodri will never be it. There was a point in time I thought we're gonna buy somebody else like Zakaria or somebody, and Rodri will be the second guy. But look at Rodri, man. He listened to what the manager said, and he's number one. So I think that's what Phillips should be thinking, saying, "I am going to dislodge you, Kovacic. I know you're number six. I'm also capable of playing number six. You get my point?"
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't. That's the problem, Patrick, and clinical. He isn't going to dislodge Rodri. That's the problem. You've got Rodri.
Okay.
Pep loves Rodri. This is the thing. In a way, I mean, here's one. Does Phillips maybe look upon, like Patrick just said, I'll fight for another position? Because let's be honest, he's not gonna dislodge Rodri. But if we're playing Real Madrid next week, we all know who the CDM is. If we're playing United, Arsenal, Tottenham, we all know who the CDM is.
Think
But
about
Kalvin
this for a
Phillips
second,
knows who
Martin.
it is.
Think about this for a second. Do you remember that point in the season when Alvarez was playing so well that people were saying, start him this game, like rest Haaland, start Alvarez, or start to the front two because Alvarez has to play? That's what I want to see from Phillips, where he's come back, he's playing so well when he does get a chance, whether that is the last 30 minutes of this game or we have a game that we can rest Rodri and he does come in. I want to see him at a level where he's so good. Pep is here thinking, maybe I should play a double pivot for this specific game and play both him and Phillips, him and Rodri,
But
because I don't know which one of them to pick. And that
you
would be
just
a
use
testament
Alvarez.
to how well he's playing. I'm sorry?
You just use Alvarez as a great point. Even when Alvarez was playing, he still didn't get him. When all the fans were going, get Alvarez in, get Alvarez in, get Alvarez in, he didn't.
Right.
This is the problem of
Yeah, but Martin, that's the thing. You see what I think. Sorry for cutting you, man, but you see what Clinic was saying. Alvarez was given scraps, but with the scraps, he pushed himself at a point where sometimes Pep De Bruyne gets bait. Alvarez comes in over a midfielder. Like this, I think this is what
Yeah.
I know that Haaland will forever be Haaland, but that's the thing
say
is Alvarez made a headache for Pep, where Pep was like, I'll play him as the number 10 before the striker.
He did.
yeah, no, he did. But I'll be honest with you, and I've changed around on Alvarez a bit. I used to think Alvarez could play that KDB role. Don't think he can. I think he's
Right.
too weak. I think he's too weak physically to play that role. If I watched the Leeds United game and the West Ham game back, and the guy was getting knocked off the ball for fun. It was like a kid playing adults. So I think for me, Alvarez could play in that front three in a wider role. That's what I'd do in sort of a David Villa sort of role with him, because he's not going to get in ahead of Haaland. That's just Haaland. Haaland surprised everyone and played over 3,000 minutes. So that's what I mean. Alvarez has had to slightly change his position a little bit in his own mind, because he's like, I'm not going to get in ahead of the big Norwegian meat machine. I'm just not getting in ahead of him. And I think Phillips has to look at that a little bit with Rodri. I'm not going to get in ahead of Rodri. I kind of know that. So he's either got to turn around his thinking and go, what I can do is in games, come on for the last 30 minutes and be as good as Rodri, or slightly a level down, but I'm still making a difference to that team. Or he does what, like Patrick and you just mentioned, push him a bit more further forward, and he takes a Kovacic's role, or he takes, not Bernardo, but you know what I mean. He can play that little bit further forward to maybe grab a goal or two.
Yeah, that's
Because that's what I mean by changing his thinking. Alvarez, I think, has had to change his thinking of, I'm not going to play striker at Manchester City. Pep is not going to play. I had this big debate with Vater for about 2 hours on one of his shows, and Vater's like, it was very much like you said, clinical. Play Alvarez 2 up top. Pep will not play 2 up top. Pep will do it once or twice a season, but that's just not Pep. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to do. Pep doesn't play 4-4-2 or 3-5. He doesn't do it. He plays 3, 1 in the middle with the 2 out.
Because he loves it. He loves the midfield.
Hold on, Patrick. Before you go, I do have to say, for anybody who is here watching this live, or if you are watching this back on the replay, just do me a favor and show some love to this video by liking it, and show some love to the channel by subscribing as well. I think I'm 4 subscribers away from 70, and trust me, this is my month, July. My birthday is tomorrow. It mean a lot if I could get to 70 in month 7. Really appreciate that.
Happy
And for
birthday.
anybody, thank you. For anybody that isn't familiar with these guys' channel, definitely subscribe to them as well. There's plenty of good content over there, and I'm often over there as well. So definitely show them a lot of support. But yeah, you can go ahead, Patrick.
Oh, no. Finish, Martin. Finish, Martin.
No, so that's all it is. I think he might have to look at maybe being a bit further forward. I think Phillips has to pick his battles, but he has to pick the right battles. I'm not sure Rodri's the right battle, if that makes sense. Pep loves Rodri far too much, and Rodri is far too... Because as a footballer, if you're Kalvin Phillips at 28 years old, do you want to be playing against Fulham? Not really. You want to be playing in that Champions League semi-finals, finals. So, and you kind of know it.
Martin, you might not want to play against Fulham, but you have to prove yourself by playing against Fulham to get to those games where Pep is going to trust you. So right now, he's at the stage where he'll have to take that Fulham game with both hands. And Patrick mentioned it with Alvarez's mentality. Yes, he's not playing over Haaland, but he has that mentality that, you know what? If I'm not playing there, I'm playing there on the right, or I'm playing there in that KDB role. It might not be my preferred role. I might not be at my personal best there, but I am going to get myself in this team and try my best at getting that one of those positions.
Yeah,
I think
that's what I mean. He might have to. That's what I mean by pick your battles, because I honestly think no matter how hard he tries, he's not getting in ahead of Rodri.
But
he's never going to dislodge Rodri as number one.
Mentally, I want him to think that he can. I want him to try to get to that Phillips level. It's kind of like how people say, shoot for the stars, but if you miss, you land on the moon. Like, try to get to Rodri's level. Think in your head, I need to be playing at that level if I want to get into this team. And he will find that spot. It might not be Rodri's spot, but that is what's going to get him into the team.
Yeah,
I have a good example for you, Martin. Same thing as even Rodri. As much as Rodri has gone to a certain level, there's still certain things that Fernandinho did Rodri hasn't done yet. So something that Fernandinho did or used to do, or how you used to play, it's just, I think you have to bring the best version of yourself. Like, Martin, we spoke about it here, saying, for you not to be trusted when benching, when players are being benched, I think that's what everybody's looking for. When Rodri is benched after 40 minutes, guess who walks in? Phillips. We don't want to see Gomez, Rico Lewis, John Stones. And you know what? Phillips says he also can play centre back. Try dislodge somebody there for maybe a game like a preseason game.
Have you seen how many centre backs we've got? He's got no chance of getting in at centre back. We've got 11,000 centre backs.
Yeah, but you get my point, Martin. That I think the trust has to be that when Rodri gets benched, when he gets benched, Pep has to say, when I put Phillips, the level is not dropping. Yes, it will drop, but it dropped by 1. So I think that's what he has to get. He didn't even get there this season. Yeah, I want to
see him in Japan, showing a lot more bravery, a lot more. Pep. People go on about Pep being very rigid and he has, people do as you're told. It's a very weird one with Pep, because it really is, because you look at Pep and you think, if you're Phillips, you go, do you know what? I'm going to gamble. I'll go that extra 20 yards, push further up the field, and I'll shoot and have a goal. The problem is in Phillips' head, he's like, if I do that, am I going to get rollicked off my manager? I always look at, do you remember the Arsenal game when KDB scored? And all it was Edison going punt. Edison just punted it 40 yards up the field. And it was flicked on, and we scored. Instead of celebrating, Pep turned around and rollicked Edison. Absolutely rollicked him. To say, we don't do that, stop it. What are you doing that for? That isn't the game plan. So, in a way, I think Phillips is in a rock and a hard place, because, yes, you've got to be brave and take that gamble and go out of position and score a goal or get further onto attack. But the trouble is, do I get rollicked for that or do I not? And I think it's also a mental issue for Phillips.
Mm.
I think it's a mental issue of, I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm fully doing, because and I think that's what's got to be established. So he has to come out the gate early in pre-season. I want to see him against Arsenal in the Community Shield.
That has to be his
I think he'll
target.
play.
He has to be thinking of having the best possible preseason
Yes,
and taking
exactly.
that start in the Arsenal game. That's what he has to be targeting.
Yeah,
Like you
and
said,
and then you look at the next game. Can he play Burnley? Can he play Burnley? Chances are probably not. But if I try in pre-season,
team for the start of the season,
yeah,
personally,
and that's the problem. Then, if you're Phillips, you have to be mentally strong at Burnley to go, do you know what? I'm on the bench. It's okay. But if I'm called upon, I'm going to go on for 30 minutes and give it my all and show Pep that I'm in contention for the Newcastle game then. This is what he has to do. He has to slowly keep going bit by bit. Even if it's only 20 minutes here and there, give that best 20 minutes you can.
I think we're also making a mistake though we're making a small mistake. Sorry, Martin. We're making a small mistake about saying he can only target. He cannot be played for Burnley. You know why? Do you remember, Martin? When other people come in bad condition, remember the Spurs game? Pep was willing to play the kids who came earlier. So Pep is willing to play you in the first game if you come earlier and you're in good condition. Do you remember that time when he played Dozie and them at Spurs? Yes, we lost, but it's because they came fresher. He started playing some dodgy lineups. So I think if Phillips shows him in preseason that I'm fitter than Rodri right now, I'm in better condition, I think he can have a chance to play those first games.
I think Burnley's a bit different. You don't want to get beat by a newly promoted team first game in. The trouble is we've got Burnley and Newcastle. You've got to beat Newcastle because they're going to be up there competing with us in the top four.
Third game is Sheffield, though. That's a very cheap.
Then you've got Sheffield. This is the problem. We've got two newly promoted teams in the first three games, and I've always said I don't want newly promoted teams in the first month because they're still on that crest of a wave. Turf Moor on that Friday night is going to be like a cauldron. You've got James Trafford making his debut, who's going to want to show his old team and his old boss and the team he supports. You made a mistake in getting rid of me. You've got to buy back. Watch me. And it's Vincent Kompany. It's everything you kind of don't want in that first game. It's romantic. It's nice, but it's a damn hard one because Burnley are coming up. It's champion versus champion. The Championship champions against Premier League champions. And Burnley are going to want to come at us straight out the gate at home. Then we've got Newcastle. We don't know what's going to happen.
And Martin, one more caveat. Burnley is going to have to. Burnley want revenge for that embarrassment 6-0.
Exactly. Right, yeah. And then you've got Sheffield United. And it's like, in a way, it's like the worst possible fixtures. Some people will think, oh, nice, easy start. No. Everyone remembers Sheffield United against Liverpool when they first came up at Bramall Lane. They beat them 1-0 because they were on that crest of a wave, and Liverpool went in going, it's only Sheffield United. We'll beat them easily. We just turn up. You want a Burnley and a Sheffield United around Christmas time. But when it's like Luton, whoever gets Luton in the first couple of weeks, good luck.
Right,
because they're going to be on a crest of a wave. You want Luton about February time when they're in that relegation scrap and the confidence is a bit lower. That's when you start wanting them. I've already seen people, but people are having bets on Luton having record defeats. It's like, no, stop that. Let's stop that now. It's not that easy. It all depends what Pep does, and for a start, it depends who we sign yet. If we go and get a Valverde, for example, well, sorry, it's game over then at that point of your midfield.
I think Valverde would more be along the positions of Bernardo Silva than of...
No, but then Phillips can't get forward. That's what I mean. Phillips then can't get forward because he's got Valverde there.
Right.
It all depends what we do.
You go get a player like Valverde unless Bernardo is leaving.
Because they are 100% in for the midfielder. They are trying to get a midfielder.
Yeah, that is also true, yeah.
So you've got Kovacic. Kovacic is going to have a thing to prove. At the end of the day, the ball is in Phillips's court. But let's put it this way: I hope he does well and I hope he achieves. But I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up out on loan in January at the same time.
If he
You
does
know,
end up on loan in January, it's down to him because that he would have had the entire first half of the season to prove himself. And like I
yes.
said, I'm not. I don't have a dog in this race to say I'm backing Phillips for this specific reason. I just personally believe that it's too soon to just up and get rid of him based on what we got to see of him last season. I think this season is where we have to see and assess what we do with him. So he has to take this as his best opportunity. This upcoming season, he shouldn't have that nerves about him anymore because he's endured a
No.
season already. And he can and should be buckling down and focusing on just doing his best than wondering if he's good enough to be here.
Well,
Kind of like how
oh,
Inter Milan in the final, everyone was saying, oh, they can just focus on executing their game plan and there's no pressure on them because we're the massive favorites. So
exactly.
I
Do
think
you
that's
know?
going to work in his
I'm,
favor a bit.
I'm going to give you some breaking news now, a little bit of an inside scoop, which maybe I shouldn't do, but I'll do it.
Clinical, the Jamaican citizen exclusive from Martin
Declan
Mancini's
Rice
way.
didn't join. Part of the reason Declan Rice didn't join Manchester City, he had a conversation with Kalvin Phillips on international duty, and basically said, "How hard is it to get in this City team?" And Kalvin Phillips just turned to him and went, "Have a chat with Jack Grealish over there. He'll tell you." So there's no point speaking to me. I'm not in it. I can't get in it. Have a chat with Jack. He'll tell you how hard it is. And it was a kind of like, because Declan Rice wasn't going to be used as a CDM. He was going to be pushed further forward.
Like
And
Gundogan was.
Declan Rice didn't feel he could do that role. That was part of the reason City bowed out, because there was a conversation between him and Pep, and Declan Rice was very honest and went, "I don't know if I can do that role for you." So instead of coming, taking the gamble, and maybe ending up on the bench, because that's the thing, Pep doesn't care who you are, what your name is, or if you're not performing, you go on the bench.
100%.
And I don't think Declan Rice wanted to be a £100 million flop sat on a bench.
So, Patrick,
So what do you do?
Patrick, I do want to get your thoughts on this because I was thinking about Grealish's first season, and he did win the league in that season, and he came into the new season with pressure for his performances, but he could focus on himself more because that for him on a personal level was his most successful part of his career by winning the Premier League. So Phillips, who just won a treble, he knows he had a poor season last season and that he's on borrowed time needing to prove himself. I think this is when we'll really see his ambitions and what he's really made of.
Yeah, man. Look, at the end of the day, it's all mentality, man. As I said, Pep treasures mentality, and I'm pretty sure, as Martin said, I did say the same thing, and people said I was just being a bitter City fan. I said some of the conversations Pep has is how Man City are going to push. That's how Man City determine that do we push more and continue this bidding war. Same thing as Jack. I'm pretty sure Jack was told what he was coming in for, and Jack said, "Pep Guardiola, I'll do this for you." So Phillips is all mentality. For him to be scared to say what it is, maybe he's just trying to say maybe this kid can actually take my position. Because I'm thinking if Jadon Rice came in, it was lights out for Phillips. To be honest, I was wondering where Phillips was going to fit in. But it's all about mentality, man. As I said, even people like Zinchenko, who called Pep Guardiola and told him that I'm not leaving, I'm not going on loan again. I want to learn. I want to learn under you. I think that's what's important for Pep. So Phillips is up to him. We've been saying this, you, me, and Martin. Even Martin has said multiple times. The boys in his court. Whatever he decides this pre-season will determine where he is. Whatever mentality he has. And to be honest with you, I repeat this: if there's an extension on holidays, please, Phillips, if you are ever listening to this, don't take that extension. Don't.
Yeah. Good evening to Franklin as well, by the way. But also on Jack Grealish, in that first season that he had, I'm sure he was very happy with winning the Premier League, but he didn't play a key role in that team. I don't think he felt like he did, even though he played around half of the games. But this season, no one can deny that he was a massively important part of that treble winning team. And that would mean so much more to him. I think Phillips this season is going to think, yes, I did win the treble. I have the Champions League now. And that's amazing. But he's already a part of the squad. He has that opportunity to force himself into the team and be a key role in us winning these trophies next season. Maybe not as an undisputed starter like Rodri is, where he's playing at least 90% of the games, but he can definitely do so much more than he did last season to have a pivotal role in the team or somewhat pivotal role in the team next season. I think that has to be big motivation for him going into next season.
It has to, man. It has to. I think if do you know what? Martin knows I gave Jack a hard time. I gave him a hard time because you know what? To be honest with you, I gave Jack such. To be honest, I even gave Rodri. Rodri was worse. Rodri, I called him names. I remember I used to call him Tractor. Like, where did we get this Tractor from? But that's has fans. But anyway, Jack said one thing. He said he realized that this is not as Martin said, where you feel like they're superstars. He said I stopped. He told Rio Ferdinand saying I stopped feeling like I'm in a place full of superstars and I'm too excited to be here. I said I'm gonna have to be part of it because Jack said he won the Premier League. Yes, he did some antics. He says he was excited. It was the dream of his life. But he says even when I was drinking, deep down I knew that I didn't do much of this. Then he said he made a mission to himself that next season if you're winning a trophy, you're gonna have to be part of it. You're gonna have made an impact. I'm pretty sure that's the same for Phillips. He sits there say, "I won a treble, but did I really do anything to win this treble?" So I'm pretty sure if he comes with the mentality that next season I have to make sure that if we've won a treble, at least 5 goals belong to me. So at least I have something. As I said, for me, this guy is the next best thing. I'm pretty sure if I don't know if you guys are gonna agree with me. I'm pretty sure if Declan Rice Phillips was still in the market, I think Rice and Phillips would be the two players people are fighting for. Let's not lie. They could have been the two midfielders people are fighting for right now. If somebody said there's no Rice, they couldn't be this Caicedo thing. Could have been Phillips if we didn't take him. So it's just a matter of clicking. And unfortunately, Pep Guardiola, as Jesus said, is a madman. He has specific instructions and specific ways for you to play football. Phillips can go to Liverpool and Bob's your uncle be the best TM in the league. People say he's one of the best. Phillips can go to that Arsenal team and start, I believe. But for Pep, it's more than you just being good. You have to be able to learn the ways and be able to play the way he wants you to play. Anyway, guys, I have to leave. I have to go. I wrote you a message, Clinical. Apologies, I have to leave. I have to go pick up the kids. But Martin, always a pleasure. Clinical, thank you very much, guys. Subscribe to Clinical's channel. I like the vid.
Yeah, and thank you so much for being here as well, Patrick. That was an amazing debut. Nice brace today, and I hope to see you on pretty soon as well. So have a good rest of your day, man.
Cheers, Pat.
But yeah, Franklin says I liked Kalvin Phillips when he first arrived before he got injured, but now he doesn't play like before. But not sure if we'll see the best of him here. I do understand the concerns, and I don't think I can stress enough. I'm not saying force him into the team or make sure he stays, but I do believe that there is a lot from him that we haven't seen. Because I watched a lot of him at Leeds, and I know the level that he can play at. That is not what we saw last season. So if he does have it in him, this season is where he has to show it to us.
Yeah, and honestly, I hope he sticks to what he said. And Newcastle and all these are interested, but he said he wants to stay. He's got to hit that ground running, and maybe things change in January. If someone comes in January, maybe wants him, then fair play. At least he'd give it a go. Because I don't think he can go beyond January. Because I think at 28, he's probably like, if I'm not getting in now, I'm not going to get in. I can't sit around forever on a bench.
If he goes beyond January, it will be a repeat of last season. Because
yeah, and that's what I mean. I think he will need out then.
Where he has to prove himself.
Yeah, he does need out by that point. Even I would be like, time to go. And that's, I think as fans, we have to realise not every player we sign is going to make it. We're not going to sign everyone and everyone just makes it. And also, you've got to be careful because you're also then stuck with, like your Cancelos, your Laportes, where you're having to sell cheap because you can't get the money what you need anywhere else. There's now talk of Laporte going for 25, 30 million quid because that's the only way City get rid of him.
Yeah.
And then that's your problem. You're stuck on high wages. So if he was 23, 22, I think he'd probably be like, yeah, I'll give it a year or two, see how I go. At 28, with the Euros coming up, I don't think he can afford to be sat on the bench again next season. And that's why I think if he isn't in the team by January, I think he will probably look to move then for his own England career.
Yeah,
Because like I said, he's not a kid. He's not a kid. He's 28 years old, or will be. He's not a child. He's older than Rodri. But at
by
the end of the
1
day,
year,
like we
right?
said earlier, the ball is in his court. The ball is all in Phillips's court. It's down to Phillips. He has to do a Nathan Ake. If he chooses to do a Cancelo or a Walker or a Laporte and pull the bottom lip out, well then, yeah, he won't survive. It's all about mentality. He's got to have that right mentality, and I'm sure he will, and I'm sure he'll come and fight. But he keeps saying it. The ball is in his court. He's got to make that decision from here and in. But he needs to be the first one back at training, pre-season, in the door, day or two early, show the willing, bang, I'm willing to get in.
Right.
Get back before Rodri. If Rodri's due back on a Wednesday, you come in on the Friday or the Monday. Show the willing. Show that I want to be here. The same way Nathan Ake showed.
And yeah,
because City will just go out and just replace.
And just before we wrap up, because I do want to wrap up fairly soon as well, for all the guys watching and all the girls watching as well, just do me a favor and show some love to this video by liking it. I don't know if you guys have liked it already, but just in case you haven't, this is your fair reminder. And show some love to the channel by also supporting. I'm still 4 away from 70, so do your guy a favor. And if you're not familiar with this Legends channel right here, go ahead and show him some love as well, because he's on the road to 2K. Is it, Martin, or did you already pass 2K?
Yeah, I'm 38 away from 2K now.
38. That's
creeping.
Each 1 and 2 helps. So, you never know. Help the guy out. But yeah, I also do want to speak on Stones before I close off, because I do have a bit of a confession to make. In that 1920 season, that Rodri first season, it was so bad. I remember that one vividly, and I had the biggest Otamendi and Stones agenda. And Otamendi is a player I rate highly, but for that season particularly, I think him and Stones were two of their poorest seasons in City shirts. But what Stones did after, and I was saying throughout that season, that we need to upgrade on both of these players. We need to sell the both of them and bring in 2 players closer to the level of Laporte. But after that season, Stones came in. He made an Instagram post that I saw, and he was saying, I know that last season was not my best level, and I'm fully aware of it. I want to take full responsibility for it, and I am so dedicated to work as hard as possible and do whatever I need to do much better next season and come back and give you fans performances that you deserve. And I was reading that and I was thinking, in the space of a minute, as a minute ago, I was certain that I do not want to see you here next season. But now I'm looking at this and I'm saying, you know what? We have to keep this guy, because this is the type of mentality that I want to see from our players. So I fully banked in. I bought all the available Stone stocks that I saw available, and the next season he was partnered with Ruben Diaz, and we were the best defense in the league for the whole majority of the season. So I hope Phillips is looking at stuff like this and taking inspiration from it and saying, you know what, clean slate. Pep is looking at me like clean slate. I can't even be thinking about last season. Last season didn't happen. I'm just taking all the positives and all the experience, what I've learned from playing under Pep Guardiola, playing next to or under Rodri, playing next to KDB and Gundogan, and training with all these amazing players and seeing what can I add to my game to improve for this upcoming season. What are your thoughts on that, Martin?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, John Stones was a funny one because at first I was a little bit, with John Stones, especially with all his injuries. Because I remember Stones was making mistake after mistake after mistake, was getting injured all the time. But the guy now was a Rolls Royce of a midfield, of a footballer. Absolute Rolls Royce. He's pinnacle to what we do. One of the first names on the team sheet. He can invert. Pep seems to be doing this Philip Lam experiment with him.
Image as well, yeah.
Yeah, and I just think it's amazing. And the good thing Kalvin Phillips is, just going back to that, he is homegrown as well. So City will want to give him that chance because he's homegrown. Because we've got to have this 8-player quota of homegrown. So City won't just give up on him straight away. So if he follows the Stones road, he follows the Aki road. Because he's got even the Jack Grealish road. Because listen, Jack Grealish I was the only one defending Grealish. I was literally the only person. If anyone remembers, everyone else was get him out the door, finish, flop, whatever. I was the only guy defending him to this day. And he's come good.
Yeah.
Just be patient, hope he does it. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what the remainder of this window is going to bring and who we bring in.
Grealish, my thoughts on Grealish were that I wanted to give him 18 months to then assess where he's at and what we should do with him. And even at that point in time, I was saying maybe we should be trying him in that 8 role versus on the wing. Maybe that would help him acclimatize more to what we're trying to do because I think he has a skill set to play that. And it was not necessarily to say make him an 8, but, see how he does fit in that role and see what he can bring to us. But I wasn't giving up on him either. Definitely not. I'm on the more. I'm not sure if you've noticed, Martin, but I'm so much more on the optimistic side of fans because when I started watching City, I was very young. I was just that confident kid that thought we were gonna beat everybody and that we were just always gonna play at every player's best, and we're just always gonna show up all the time. A lot of people called me naive, but that's just how I was. So I'm thinking about all these players, and I'm just. It's so hard for me to just give up on them, but with time and age, you also learn to be a bit more realistic. But I'm still at that point where I'm like, it's not like a Mangala situation where it was so bad to where you're saying, okay, we have seen enough of this guy. Definitely we have seen enough, and he is not good enough to play at this level. I think we haven't seen enough to make a decision on whether he's good enough or not. So I'm willing to see more of him this season and then assess by like January, like you said, to see if this is a Manchester City player or not.
Yeah, I think that's the fairest way to look at it. And we'll see where we are. But I do think we'll know more come the end of the window where everyone lies. Because I think there were people coming in, I think there were people coming out. I think people will change. I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm seeing fans having meltdowns over Gavardio because he's not in yet. Well, no, because £95 million deals don't happen in 1 minute flat and away you go. They do take a lot of negotiating. It's not an easy thing. But, just trust the club, trust the board, trust Pep. Mm-hmm. Listen, this board and this management have earned our trust and our patience. But let's just wait and see what happens. I do think next season will be the most competitive it's ever been in the Premier League. I really do. And that's why, people call me a dinosaur. Maybe I am in the Manchester City world, and that's fine. But I've seen a lot. I don't ever go into a season thinking we're going to smash everyone and smash every trophy and do all this. That's why I've always said it depends on the mentality of the players. To win a treble takes a lot. We might end up doing a Liverpool and just be mentally burnt out next season. And that's okay as well. That's okay as well. It's not a failure if we don't win anything next year because we're just mentally burnt out from this season. It's not FIFA where we go and win 10 leagues in a row or 15 leagues in a row and FA Cups and Champions Leagues. We'll have a season where where we're pretty average at some point. And that's what fans have to realise. That's football. That's why we love it. It's the ups and the downs. Just enjoy it, trust what happens, and believe in the players.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I do want to add to that really quickly, Martin. I got into an argument on Instagram a few days ago, maybe last week, with some people who were saying if we don't get Rice, it's a failure. And I replied and said I don't like how we're just becoming this more entitled fan base like Chelsea and United, who feel like every player that we're linked with, we have to sign them, especially if they're one of the top players. Like, it doesn't work like that. If we decide to walk away from one of these deals, I 100% believe that it was a great reason and that we have a suitable backup that we're thinking about going at after instead. So
You got to.
I don't subscribe to this cheeky out if we don't get Guardiola or if
Yeah,
we
that's
don't get
garbage.
Rice. No,
That's
come on.
garbage. The simple fact is, a player City are looking at and not what other players. We're shopping at the high end. The players, you got to look. This is the same squad that's just won the treble. How do you improve it? You improve it by going getting the world's best. Now, the world's best are not easy to negotiate or get. So it's not, like I said, it's why I keep saying it's not FIFA. You can't just stick a bid in for Kimmich and it gets accepted and within 5 minutes he's at your door. It doesn't work that way. Kimmich is at Bayern Munich, Valverde's at Real Madrid. Rice was different, I understand, but not everyone is going to sell, and especially sell to Manchester City. City have just won the treble. Why are clubs going to sell all their best players to us to make us even better?
That means
They're shooting themselves in the
every
foot.
team in Europe now knows that we are on that level now, and they're gonna sell
Yeah.
one of their best players over to us. Leipzig literally
Exactly.
lost to us last season
Doesn't
on the
happen.
way to the treble.
And they're going to make us better and them worse. That ain't going to happen. That is not going to happen. That's, again, there is politics within transfers as well. Look at the Mbappe thing. Mbappe is the exact reason City have never done superstars. Because down the road, you get the throw the toys out the pram. I'm bigger than you. That's why City have never done it. Because they don't want that. United for 3 years tried this, let's buy everyone off Instagram. Who gets us the biggest Instagram followers? Yeah, that's great. Gets you a few clicks on social media. Gets you nothing on the pitch, though.
Yep, it gets you 10 years of finishing behind Manchester City.
Yeah, but what's the point? Some fans need to just calm down, relax, and come into reality. Because I do genuinely think, I'm hearing it now, I hear it, and I'm not nothing against them, but it's winding me up a bit. I listen to some Newcastle fans, and you would think that they're going to win the league this year and they're going to buy everyone. Just because you got taken over doesn't mean you're immediately going in to win the league and buying Neymar and Mbappe and everyone else. Doesn't work like that. City didn't do that.
And it also doesn't mean that if you do that, it's going to work immediately.
Yeah, it doesn't work. You've got to, it's just, the worst thing in that, and it goes with me as well, I've been guilty of it, is fans don't have patience. You don't have patience for players, patience for transfers, patience for trophies, patience for anything. They want it here and now. Because let's go back January. I was doing streams where people were questioning Pep. 6 months on, they look very silly. But I'm telling you now, if we're third, come January, you'll get the exact same thing. Pep's finished. Because, and it works for players. Let's just be patient, relax, and enjoy the ride. Because what we did last season was very, very, very surreal and very not normal. What we did last season was not normal. The last time a treble was won before that was 24 years beforehand. So it isn't done every day. It's not done every 10 years.
And you already have fans thinking we need to be winning a treble again next year.
Yeah, exactly. I've got fans. We're going to win this, and we're going to win the sixth triple. What? No, relax. Anyway, no, big thank you, Prime Minister Clinical.
I do hope you can answer this question from Franklin before you do go. As he said, what position or player would you buy next season? aside from Guvardia? Like, what would your next signing be?
Midfielder.
And I think he's looking for a player specifically, if you do have one.
Right now, the only one I can think of is Valverde.
That's why I asked you to go first because that's my personal answer as well.
Only
If
because
he's available for real.
Valverde is the closest to Bernardo Silva, because to me, Bernardo Silva will go.
Right.
Bernardo Silva has had a contract on the table for 15 months unsigned. If he's been on the table for over a year, he's not signing that contract anytime soon. So it needs to be replaced.
There's always this conversation as well about getting in a fast winger, and people are saying, we can't do that because of how we play now. We need players on the wings who keep the ball and can tuck into the midfield.
Mhm.
I think, and this might sound weird, but Valverde is a unicorn because he is fast, but he is also a midfielder who plays on that
versatile.
Area. So he can play as a winger, tuck into that midfield, still keep that good ball retention, and he's rapid. So I think this is a perfect player for what we're trying to do.
Well, he can play right wing, left wing, cam, or in centre mid. He can play a 10, an 8, a 7, or an 11.
And we all know how Pep loves his versatile players.
Exactly. So if you've got... Now, to me, this is the way I view it. Mbappe wants to go to Real Madrid. Real Madrid now have no more money. They can't go and splash 150 million quid on Mbappe. So they need to raise some money. They're stocked with midfielders. Absolutely stocked with them. Right. Go and buy Valverde. Give them the money. They then can go and buy Mbappe. Because if they don't buy Mbappe next year, Mbappe will go somewhere else. Because Mbappe will go this summer. Because PSG are not going to allow him to go for free. They've already said that. They'll sell him to whoever, wherever, whenever. So if Mbappe goes off the table, who do Real Madrid come for next year? Erling Braut Haaland. So what you do is 2 birds, 1 stone. You give Real Madrid a load of money. We get a midfielder. They get Mbappe. They don't come for Haaland.
And that's 3 wins right there, just like that.
And that's the way that's the way clubs look at it. Clubs will look that far in advance. They will think, if we do that, that stops that. It's not, this is what I mean, it's not FIFA. It's not go on, stick a bid, go straight into it. It's not that easy. Real Madrid have not got pots and pots of money like everyone thinks. They've just splashed 130 million with bonuses on Bellingham. So, yeah, I think Valverde, I mean, my ideal one is Kimmich, but we're not going to get him. That would be my dream signing of Joshua Kimmich, but we're not going to get him. So we move on, and Valverde is probably the closest thing to Bernardo you will get. And I think about 80, 90 million quid to get him. Because that allows them the money to go and get Mbappe.
Yeah, I fully agree. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate, really enjoyed having this chat with you. And another great debut appearance from Martin. So, nice brace. Hopefully I'll see you again on another stream for a hat-trick potential.
No, anytime. And happy birthday tomorrow. But yeah, make sure you hit that subscribe to Clinical and show them a lot of love. Thank you for having us, mate, and have a great birthday.
Thank you. I'll do my best. Wifey has big plans she doesn't want to share with me because she wants it to be a surprise. And I think she's baking me a cake today as well. So excited. Getting a red velvet. But yeah, and hopefully you stop ducking out my FIFA challenge and we can have that done sooner than later.
I'm waiting for Veta tomorrow to set this up.
I'm not sure if I'll be able to watch it because I'll be on the road, but I'll see what I can do.
No, listen, I'm always open. We'll get it started. Don't worry.
Yeah, and I appreciate everyone who did leave me comments as well. I much appreciate having this conversation with all of you. Always feel free to stop by and share your thoughts because, I'm trying to build a nice community of football fans. You're not even just Blues, but we can always have great conversations over here. But I'll let you guys go and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And I hope to see you guys on the next one.